Katie Rogers, I am so thrilled to welcome you here today to the Divine Union podcast.
It is such an honor to be here, Nicola. I am so happy to be inside your space with your sexy voice, sharing with your community. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to dig into this episode with you today. All around integrating our identity, evolving our identity. I'm so curious to hear about your journey of evolution so that we can empower all of you beautiful people listening on how you can truly step into that highest version of self and manifest all it is that you desire in life and in business. So,
Oh,
Kate,
oh.
yes, I love, wow, let's go. I would love for you to
Yeah.
kick us off and sharing a bit about your journey into this work.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me tell you the story of when my perspective of my identity got completely stripped out. And we're always on this journey of becoming, right? We can always go through it. At one point, as a child, I was like 4 foot tall. Is that my identity? No. We evolve, we change. I've changed my name. Is my name my identity? No. And so on and so forth. And we have so many labels and tags and pieces that it's very easy to attach our identity to. But who are we beyond these things? And one time, I was living, I call it affectionately, my success on paper era. I was living the life that kind of everybody wanted, right? I was living in this gorgeous £1 million house in the countryside with my fiance. I had a beautiful ring on my finger. We had gorgeous cars. We had our dog. I was working at a top American law firm. I was outwardly to anyone else successful, living this perfect life, except I was miserable. It was like a prison for me. And one day I'd been working just relentlessly. This was in the COVID era, working from home at my desk, eating every meal at my desk because I had a complete inability to say no. And people were like, well, Katie, you've got nothing else to do. So here's some more work, here's some more work, here's some more work. And I kept doing it, right? I ended up working kind of from about 7 a.m. till around 2 a.m. And then I would try and sleep. I'd eat all my meals at my desk. I'd wake up in the night having panic attacks. And this had been going on for some time. And I got in my car, I drove out, and I was like, I don't even know where I'm going. And I get out the car, I pick up my phone, and I'm like, I don't even know who to ask for help. I couldn't remember my name. I couldn't remember my partner's name. And I was realizing that I am not okay. And I managed to get myself back home. And I knew I had to leave my job. And I created a big part of my identity as being a lawyer. And I left my job. I thought I had another job to go to, but the universe sort of tricked me with that one. And then it was like, huh, now you're not working as a lawyer. And I was never meant to be a lawyer in hindsight. And I had more space from not working to really see what a toxic dynamic I was in. And it wasn't just in my workplace, it was also in my relationship. It was also my relationship to self. It was everything, right? And I was thinking, I need to leave this situation, but I don't know. How do I leave behind all of these things that are me? Being a lawyer, the home, the partner, the everything. Who am I without all of these things? And I was too tired of struggling at this point. So I decided to relax, leave it to the universe. Okay, I surrender, universe. If I should leave, show me an owl. And if I should stay, show me a deer. And then I looked at my phone after this meditation, and my friend had tagged herself at this place called Owl Canyon, and she zoomed out. Owl Canyon, it was massive. And I thought, okay, what are the chances? I go upstairs, I sit next to my partner, and he's showing me on his computer. He's like, hey, look at my new wallpaper, because it changed every day. And it was 5 owls, 5 of them. And I'm like, okay, universe, I got it. I got it. And then my friend offered me to stay at her space. She's like, I know you're going through a bit of a rough time. I'm going on holiday. Come and stay at my place. I'd never been to this town before. It's called Leeds in England. I get to Leeds. I drive past the town hall, and outside the front of the town hall are 2 giant gold owls. I'm like, what? Now, Leeds, like they have the owl is kind of their emblem. I had no idea. So the universe is showing me all of these owls and putting me in all these positions. Anyway, I have this space at her place. I go back to my home and I phoned my mum and I said, I don't know why, but I know I need to leave this relationship. I didn't have the understanding to really articulate the abusive dynamic that I was in. To me, it felt like love, but I knew things weren't right. I knew I was too tired and too miserable to keep living that way. I told her I was leaving. She came over to try and change my mind. And she said, Katie, if you think you can do better than this, you are crazy. You have everything. You think you can create a better life than this? Like, sorry, but you're delusional. I guess I am delusional,
Mhm.
right? Anyway, I tell her the story about the owl and the deer. And I think at this point, she's quite worried about me. She thinks I've lost the plot. But she's driving home and she lives about 2 hours away from me. And she phoned me up about an hour into her journey. And I thought, well, that's weird. So I pick up the phone and I'm like, are you okay? And she said, she's crying. Should I've just run over and killed a deer? I believe you now.
Ooh, ooh. Oh
So this was me building my own sense of self-trust. Except in this relationship, I've also been financially abused. And so when I leave this, I actually left because I thought I was protecting him from me. I thought I was a really bad person. And I left that relationship with next to nothing. I didn't have my job. All I had was my car, which was a little Fiat 500, and I lived out of my car. I became homeless. And anything that didn't fit my car was basically sold or donated. And I started working in the adult entertainment industry. So going from a space of being a top high-flying lawyer with everything on paper that everyone wanted, everything I attached my identity to things I was so ashamed of that I didn't want to attach my identity to at all. I didn't want to be homeless. I didn't want to be seen as working in the adult entertainment industry. I had a lot of shame around both of those things. And I could have used my external reality to say to me, hey, this is who you are. In the same way, I was so bought into it before. This is who I am. I'm the lawyer. I'm this person's fiance. I live in this house. I wasn't any of those things. So in this quantum crumble, I had to find out, who am I really? Who am I beyond all of this? And this is where I started to rebuild, where I started to learn about myself, where I started to evolve and create the life that I live now.
what a opener story. What a story. It's like these moments I love that you're sharing this magic. It got me excited because I feel to find ourselves. And what I'm hearing in your story too, it comes from first, it's like this relationship with God. All the
Yeah.
magic that I love the magic that you experience with the owls and all this synchronicity that's guiding you to have these answers. And so there's that piece, which I want to just really sink home for everyone listening, because I feel that spiritual piece, our connection to our own divinity and God is such a powerful one. And I love that you're
Mm,
surrendering to the flow, even though you didn't know that you should leave your relationship or why. You still
yeah.
followed those signs, those nudges, your intuition. And I also love what you're speaking to, and I want to hear more on this, is this non-attachment to identity in so many ways, career, relationship, how much money we have, and just being, and how you went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
So then what
Yeah.
happens in that evolution? So now you're sitting here and you're homeless, and now you're working in the adult entertainment industry. And how do you then work through those pieces of who am I? How did you figure that out? Who am I beyond these
Mm.
things?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like that all got stripped away to be like, oh, you think that's who you are? But when I take it all away, you're still here. So it was almost like I wasn't any of those things. So what am I? And I'd like to say I worked out all in that moment. But truthfully, I was so tired from having lived from the neck up for so long, being so active in my mind. You know, as a lawyer, I didn't feel like I could think about anything unless I was getting paid to think about it. And even trying to sleep at night, my mind is still whirring, there's still 1,000 things going through. And when I had to surrender, it was almost like my mind was like, nope, we're not working anymore. You're going to have to do something else. I'm like, well, thank God I'm a beautiful woman, right? So if my mind is not going to carry me through and make me some money in this period, let's work with what I have. And it was very healing to be able to get out of my mind into my body. And I wasn't safe enough at that point to be able to experience my emotions. I wasn't safe enough to go in and really ask that question of who am I? It was more a space of survival of how do I get out of here? How do I change this? How do I evolve this? Then I'll be enough. Then I'll be safe. Then I can do it, right? And we can do that game again and again. We can say now isn't the ideal time. Now isn't the right space. So I'll wait until, and then you build the safety, and then you're like, it's well, I'm okay now. I don't need to do that anymore, right? Except that stuff that you push down, it doesn't just go nowhere. So I had to feel it. I had to feel the things I wasn't able to feel at the time. And I had to completely change the relationship that I had with myself. So going inward for the first time was extremely powerful. I knew that through building myself back up again, I knew I had a lot of healing to do. And I knew that I never wanted to be in the situations I was in before. And I knew that wasn't going to come from the next partner being different, the next job being different, the next boss being different, the next clients being different. I knew that I had to be different. So I had to learn what is in here then, and how do I shift that to create something different outside of me. So I realized that I'd been through narcissistic abuse, and I realized that I had some healing to do around the things that led into that from my childhood experiences. And in learning that about myself, I had to learn about all of the parts that I was rejecting, all of the parts that I was hiding. I realized that I had created this illusion that looked beautiful on paper, but on the inside, I was just like a mix match of all these different jigsaw puzzles that didn't fit together to really create any picture, nothing meaningful. And so I'd been so focused. How do I be the perfect daughter, the perfect lawyer, the perfect fiance, the perfect, how can I look so great? But I was feeling miserable. I had to get out of my head on how does this look and feel into what is this actually like for me? Am I owning this? Am I embodying this? And the interesting thing is, I was so disconnected from my authenticity and I had no idea. I was so disconnected from my power and I felt the most empowered I'd ever been. I thought that I was in control. I had a very codependent relationship with everyone, which meant I saw myself as so much more resourced, so much wiser, so much more nourished, and that, other people were less capable than me, right?
This
My
is,
own narcissistic parts were shining so brightly. And then it meant I was a match for it in the outside, and I had no idea.
what do you recommend for someone who's listening and is like, because this is so powerful what you're sharing, Katie, and maybe someone is listening and they're not quite there yet with like their own patterns. How did you do that? How do you do that? What gets you there? Everyone has their own mediums. Was it through meditation? Was it through dance? And then how do you work on these inner parts, strengthening these inner parts so we could feel a bit more about your process or any tools that you may have? I
Mm,
know that this work is deep, so it's not just an easy, I'm going to name a tool, but if you have
yeah.
any insights into your own process or practices that have helped you build that awareness and move through some of these patterns, whether it be in relationship, like narcissism and how we're sourcing externally, or if it's around self empowerment and building self back up.
Yeah, totally. So when we come back to this question of who am I, the answer is I'm all of it, right? When we come into wholeness, it's like, yeah, there is the part of me that is the empath. There's the part of me that is the narcissist. There's the part of me that is the adult entertainer. There's the part of me that's the lawyer. There's the part, all of this. There's a part of me that's fear. There's a part of me that's love. And we can spend a lot of time making some of these parts wrong. We can spend a lot of time having shame around some of these parts. But when you really come back to this idea of wholeness, of I am a multifaceted woman with all of these multifaceted parts, then it becomes a space of, well, who am I? Because I'm not any of this, but I am all of this, but I'm the one that witnesses it all, right? So we create that sense of separation back. And then it's almost like, oh, at my essence, at my being, this is who I am. I am the one that witnesses. And all these other parts, they're all kind of ego. So it's like, well, I'm choosing to drive with a part of me that is fear. I'm choosing to drive and like implement this part of me that is shame or that is whatever. So when you get to step into that, bring that back, sometimes we're so close to something, we either identify with it, we judge it, we believe it, and then this is where you get stuck with these parts. So in being able to take a step back, sit back and notice, you create that space. Not only are you seeing this big thing that's right in front of you, but you can see what else is always there, what's always true. And what's always consistent is the essence. What's always consistent is that you have a choice, that you have power. So some beautiful practices that I like to embody for this is being able to notice when you are feeling discomfort. This is your opportunity to lean in. We can notice our discomfort and we can believe it. We just sort of don't notice it enough that we let it run the show. But when we lean in and we're willing to be with it, we notice that I'm with this part right now. I'm not it. I don't need to believe it. I can appreciate that some of my parts, they're going to be so grounded, nourished, resourced, powerful, and other parts are going to be less resourced, less nourished, less grounded. So if I feel resistance, yeah, I can make this feel wrong about me. That's not going to really help me and support me. Or I can accept it, lean in, and take the wisdom from it. I can listen. I can understand. And when you can view more of your life through a compassionate lens, this is where you get to really integrate the gifts of your experiences. So, more practically, what that looks like is that, let's say you're running a business, you're running a new offer, and you notice a pattern come up. You notice you go into overdrive. You're wanting to work on all the things. You're thinking your way through everything. Oh, am I trying to avoid something here? Why am I working so hard? Okay, you can notice the pattern. Is it new or is it familiar? Oh, yeah, I've done this a lot of times. How does this work out for me? Not so great. What does this want for me? Right, beautiful question. When we see these parts in their innocence, we get to see so often they have such beautiful, gorgeous wisdom for us. And we can thank them for that. So rather than judging me as meeting ourselves with judgment, with resistance, with rejection, then when we know what these parts want for us, then we can use our essence to embody a more empowered part of our ego to drive us on this journey. Because do you want to drive your launch with fear? Probably not. It's a low frequency. It's not magnetic. It feels very sticky. It's almost like you put in the worst petrol to your vehicle and you're like clunky going along and it sucks. Or do I want to put some high octane fuel in my vehicle? If I can move from a space of power, if I can move with passion, if I can move with purpose, if I can let this be pleasurable and fun, this is where you're going to be so much more magnetic. And so you get to honor all of these parts. I'm everything. Yeah. And then I
I
don't need
love
to worry about judgment because I am all of it. And then I choose which bit I embody.
I love that so much because I love, Katie, this idea of we're not making it go away. We're not avoiding
Yeah.
it. We're welcoming them in. The fear, the anger, the scarcity, the lack, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we're welcoming it in, yet we're choosing this higher path and bringing them along with us. And it kind of, it
Mhm.
makes me think about, it's almost like parenting these parts, or I like to
Yeah.
think of it as like the masculine and feminine energies. If we were to, like, the masculine can hold the feminine. Oh, I got you. We're going through it. We're working through it. What do you need to relax? You
Yeah.
some affirmations, some yoga, but I love that you're giving everyone permission to feel, because I find this even in myself when and this still comes up because I am not perfect with
Yeah.
this, when I'm like, oh, I don't feel fear, or ignoring the fear, or not giving a voice to the fear. I'm afraid about
Yeah.
this. And now how do I like accept that I'm afraid and still move forward?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I love this point that sometimes we go through this work, we can be really masterful with it, and yet there are still going to be some blind spots to us, and yet we are still human. And we came here to have the human experience. We came here to feel our fear. When this comes up, it's not because you did it wrong. It's not because you're not advanced enough or evolved enough. And sometimes we can buy into that misunderstanding of like, oh my God, I went through that breakup, but I'm so evolved. I didn't even feel any bad about it. I just was straight in my power again. And then later on, you're like, oh yeah, there was something there I didn't feel. And so it's almost like noticing if you think, sometimes things come up and you're like, no, I'm above that. I don't need to listen to this part. I know I want to drive with my power. But by almost bringing the parts along with you for the ride, you still get so much wisdom out of them and so much freedom. So it can be tempting to want to escape, and it's so human too. And also, my invitation is to lean in because there's always more magic. We always get to rush and doll evolve again and again and love that journey. It's not about the end point, it's always evolving.
This is so good. And this leads me into my next question for you, because also with this process, and when I also think about my own evolution, curious what you have on yours too, like I know you talk about it in your work. It's about expanding also our capacity, working with the nervous system to
Mhm.
allow us to also feel the feelings of fear and anxiety, and to still be relaxed and at ease as we maintain that focus on the path, with whatever
Yeah.
it is, with if it's with career and working through those goals, that vision that we see, even when the vision feels so big. And that's something that I often feel is sometimes I want to numb out when the vision feels so big and heavy,
Mhm.
and I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Mm.
And so I'm be curious what, yeah, what tools you use when it comes to the nervous system and how you stay at ease, and if you have any examples in your own life of, without having to speak to specifics, but if it's something in business or in life that is a cause for anxiety, and how you work through it in the body and the
Mm.
soul.
Yeah, gorgeous question. And just normalizing that we all have our upper limits, we all have our floors, we all have our ceilings. And this is kind of like our capacity of where we feel safe. Now, on the kind of spectrum of emotions, if we are so much into avoiding our failure, we also are capping the other side of that. We're also capping our capacity to feel success. So sometimes people might go through their business and they might get success, but they get to that space. And like I say, this is probably also the person that's going through their launch from a space of fear, trying so hard to avoid failure. They're reaching some level of success. And then they're like, huh, I didn't really feel how I thought it would. Or they move the goalpost straight away. So they're willing to feel their success just a smidge, in the same way they're only willing to meet their failure just a smidge. Now, if you can expand your capacity to be with failure as a sensation, not as a story, I'm not saying you actually have to go out there, become homeless, lose all your money like I did or anything like that. But by widening your range to be with failure as a sensation, to be with your fear as a sensation, you also expand your capacity for success on the other side of that. And pleasure is a beautiful way to expand your nervous system capacity as well, especially, if you are one of these high achieving people, it's almost like, oh no, I can get pleasure at the next goalpost, at the next finish line, at the next thing. You don't really allow yourself to feel it. It impacts everywhere, right? And keeps you capped in these upper limits. So when you notice a feeling come up, it could be fear, it could be shame, it could be anything. And sometimes it feels overwhelming, it feels so big. We can often buy into this misunderstanding of that the edges of my body is all that I am. And it's not. So we might think, I need to hold this shame or this fear at this tiny little ball in my throat, or is these little knots in my stomach. And if I don't think about them, hopefully they'll go away. If I get that next man or that next job or that next client, hopefully these will just resolve themselves and I don't have to think about them, right? We're outsourcing our power. But when you can come in, be with that as a sensation, realize, okay, this is here, this is me, this is a part of me, it's all me. And I can choose to spend a lot of my time fighting it, resisting it, keeping it in this tiny space where it's fighting so hard for my attention and feels awful. Or what if I just allow it? What if I gave it space? It doesn't even have to live in my body. It could take up this whole room. What if I'm willing to be with it, to listen to it, to understand it and what it wants for me, what it's trying to achieve for me? You expand your capacity to be with your fear, to take the wisdom from it. and you inevitably also expand your capacity for the success on the other side of it. And when you do this, you get to realize, oh, it's not my fear that was the thing that was hurting me. The thing that was hurting me was the resistance to my fear. As if you've been clinging onto this barbed wire for so long, your muscles are really tired, you're sore, your hands are bleeding. And then you finally let go and you realize there's this gorgeous soft grass underneath you, just 1 inch below. And you let go and you're like, oh, that's what I was worried about. Falling this 1 inch. Oh, this is way easier. So it's often the stories that we create around what we resist that keep us in a space that does not feel good. And this is where we prolong, we can actually process emotion in about 90 seconds. But when we are avoiding or we're indulging in it, i.e., we stay in the mind and we keep looping, we can hold on to these emotions for as long as you want, days, weeks, months, years, decades, sometimes lifetimes. But when you change the relationship with that part, this is a part of me. And if I can learn to love it, I can learn to love myself a little bit more. I can expand into my pleasure, be with the sensation, and hold the duality of both.
Mhm.
This is where you get to really experience more.
It's just so beautiful. And I love, Katie, what you share about this polarity, which I want to just repeat for everyone listening because it was such gold, is that if we're limiting our capacity to feel, I'm not even going to articulate it as you did. I'm going to try my best here. It was the polarity of like when we limit our capacity to feel pleasure, it also limits our capacity, the fear, how the fear and the pleasure mirror each other. Yeah, I'm not saying it how you said
Mhm.
it, but they mirror. So the more that we expand our capacity, this is it, to feel the fear, the more we also expand our capacity to feel the success, the pleasure, the joy,
Yeah.
and how they go hand in hand.
Mhm.
And I would love to give some also, see if we can have some examples, because an example comes for me in my life, just to really get vulnerable here so that, because this is such a good topic for everyone listening, because we all have
Yeah.
these major blocks of fear. And it's a good reminder for me as I think about to this stage of my business and my life. Uh, been getting involved in more public speaking. And I notice for me, the fear comes up because it's a different level of expertise when it's speaking in public and you got to memorize all the content, and it's not as, even though I love to channel, there's this element of preparation that comes with public
Mm.
speaking for long periods of time. And I noticed my fear coming up to a point that it's like it numbs me from wanting to continue to put myself out there in these moments. And so I love that analogy that you gave of how can I just, okay, I'm afraid, allow myself to expand my capacity. Sure, maybe there will be some failures. Maybe there will be some times where I don't speak as eloquently as I desire, especially when I'm working on that skill, honing that skill, preparing for the TED stage, wink, wink, right? Like,
Yeah.
how can I let
Uh-huh.
myself, but expand it? Because if I don't allow myself to think about failure and I have that hyper perfectionism, which I have, I'm realizing it's blocking me from like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have to be perfect the first time or the second or the third. And like it's going to build in time because our embodiment of our work and our expertise builds in time as we evolve. And it's just
Mm.
giving me permission to think about that. Like, how do I hold that? Okay, I'm afraid. And just even by
Yeah.
giving myself 10 minutes to get away from the computer and like, yes, admit I'm afraid. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Like start to ask those questions, which I don't go to when I'm like stuck heavy in the mind, but I need to disconnect to feel it. And then that like allows me to, okay, and we're just going to keep on going.
Yeah.
And so
I
that was
think,
something that came up for me. Yeah, just that's alive in my field and giving myself the spaciousness to feel. And I'm wondering, just to really wire it in for everyone, if you have an example of something you've moved through or something that's alive that you've
yeah.
navigated in this way when it comes to the fear and holding it.
Yeah. I absolutely love this question. And I want to share as well and touch on the irony that we create the thing that we're avoiding, right? When we so want to avoid our failure and we have such a big fear of failure, that we'll start telling ourselves like, no, you can't do that. You're not ready yet. No, you need to spend more time doing this thing. And what that ultimately creates is the ultimate failure because then you don't do the thing, right? So in avoiding failure, we make it inevitable. Whereas when we can expand our capacity to hold the duality of like, yeah, there's fear, and my fear is coming on the journey with me. And I can also put in my bag that I'm going to hold with me on stage. I'm also going to bring my courage. I'm also going to bring my compassion, all these things. And I was working with a world-class athlete. She trains high rocks and she's going to world championships. And we did this visualization where she has her fear. We changed the relationship with it, but she also has her power. And I said, get in that arena and you're going to fill the whole thing with your power. We really get clear on what does it look like. And for her, it was this pink mist with like ombre purple. It was warm, it was powerful. Like, great, fill the whole room with that. So as you're going around and you need it, you've got an infinite supply you can grab hold of. And it's like, yeah, I'm not even thinking about the fear anymore because I'm just so expanded into this power and it's everywhere. It's infinite and it can never run out. I can tap into it whenever I need it. And then it almost gets to be like this game of Mario Kart, like going around and collecting the bits that you want versus being taken out of the game with your fear. So yes, I love this. And in my personal life, for me, relationship is the thing where I'm currently experiencing my upper limits. And it's so sneaky, right? Because you think you got it all together and you think like, this is going so well, this is going so well. And then you have a weekend where it's like, oh, this is real now. Except you don't notice that bit, but what you do notice is a part of you that suddenly becomes very critical of the partner you've chose. Oh, no, they couldn't be the right person for you because of this. Look, did you see this? Look at this happening. Look at this, right? And you start to notice all these things. Oh, no, this has got to be an out for me. I've got to go. Or what can I do? I lean in and notice what it is about this that feels unsafe for me, that feels like I need to run. And again, for me, it boils down to rejection. And in my avoidance of rejection, guess what I'm creating? I'm rejecting myself. I'm rejecting the other. I'm rejecting my opportunity for a relationship that I really want to experience. So there's never a space where you go through this stuff and you're like, nope, I'm just healed and whole and I'm done now. I'm good. I'm just going to move through the rest of my, I don't know, hopefully another 6 decades and just never have to do this again. It's a constant evolving space of the work. And it's beautiful because you get to experience these new levels to yourself, these new dimensions, and understand like the innocence in all of it, the love in all of it. How sweet that there's this gorgeous part of me who never wants to be in a relationship like I was in before. How beautiful that she wants that for me. She wants to protect me. Great. She gets to come on the ride too. She's with me for my whole life. But I can change a relationship that I have with her. So when she gets triggered and she gets upset, I don't let my inner 6-year-old or whatever it is make the key decisions in my relationships. I can internally nourish and then decide how I want to move.
I love that point so much, Katie, about what we avoid manifests. It becomes the failure. I really want to dig into that because that is so like drill that in. So if I'm avoiding rejection, I reject myself.
Mm.
That's so powerful. And even about, as we were speaking about the fear, if I'm avoiding the fear, I'm using the fear to avoid putting myself out there in business, in life, in relating. It's the ultimate failure, as you said, because I'm not actually doing the thing.
Yeah.
And this is such the dance, the challenge of life, I feel, is we think we're going to be perfect out the gate. I have that perfectionism so strong. And so, how
Yeah.
do we allow ourselves to evolve as beings? And it comes for me, what comes just now is it's the acceptance that the only constant in life is change, and that we are
Yeah.
fluid beings. We're not fixed beings, and our
Yeah.
identity can change at any moment. How we view something can change at any moment. And giving spaciousness
Mm,
to that flow.
yeah. I had somebody ask me recently, what would you say to somebody, a woman who is in this space of between who she was and who she's becoming? What would you say to her? And I said, well, this is everybody. I said, I hope you are in this space between who you were and who you're becoming. Because how boring would it be to be like, this is me, fixed point, this is who I am forever. And then you're going to be very upset with yourself when you get older. You're going to be very upset with yourself when things change around you. But what if I'm always evolving? What if I'm always becoming? What if I get to experience life as constantly delivering me these gorgeous pieces of curriculum or raw materials that are the portal to my next level? And, some of us, we are very high achievers, we are perfectionists, and we're like, yeah, I want to get to level 10. Let's go through all of these portals. But also noticing, can I accept where I am now instead of imagining I need to be at level 10? Can I be in a permanent state of becoming an evolution and love all that journey? Can I bring pleasure into all of that part of the journey? And that was something that really I had to learn. I had to evolve into. I have to remind myself, because as a high achiever, I can definitely get caught into well, I just need to get to level 10. I just need to get to the next bit. I don't want to go 0 to 30. I want to go 0 to 100,
Right,
right?
right.
And then I can feel good. And by being able to accept where I am, accept the becoming of it, accept the journey, it becomes so much more fun. You're so less focused on the end point and you're just in the evolution. You get to enjoy the scenic route.
Yeah, it's such a good reminder for us all. And it resonates so much too. And yeah, a friend had said recently, she was like, it's so interesting. We're talking about life. And she's like, we spend all this time trying to get to the goal. Yet, like,
Yeah.
the entire life is the journey. Our entire life is the
Hmm.
journey. So, how do we really just enjoy the journey, as you're saying, and
Yeah.
bring that element of joy and play to it? The last thing that I want to just touch on, because it's a word, and we've kind of touched it here and there. It's a word that you talk about in your work around insourcing, and really like
Hmm.
sourcing that internally and not tying to anything external. And I want to see if you have anything else on this topic, so that everyone listening, how do we come to that space of sourcing within? So when you have a challenge that you're working through, when you experience rejection, what
Yeah.
grounds you to come back in, to source that power so that you can continue to move through the world in an empowered way that feels good?
Yeah. Beautiful. And when we talk about, sourcing, insourcing, or outsourcing, it's so easy. Our life has conditioned us to imagine, okay, well, I can feel loved if the next partner loves me. I can feel successful if I land this next client or this next launch hits whatever number, right? We're outsourcing because we don't have control over any of that stuff. The only thing that we can control is our inner world, is the way we feel about ourselves, the way we think about ourselves. And so when you start to really lean into the emotion, you get to hear the story, the fear. What does it want from me? Oh, it wants me to feel safe. Okay, how do I insource that rather than imagining, well, I can only be safe if I've got this particular house or I've got this particular amount of money in my bank account or I've got this particular person that keeps me safe. This is kind of like an illusion of safety because we could be having this conversation right now. If I imagine the money in my bank account is what keeps me safe, I don't know, right? Because my bank account, all kinds of things could happen during this call. Could have gone up, could have gone down, I could have lost everything, I could have come into millions, I don't know, right? But I'm still safe in this moment. It's just an illusion. Yes, having more money is nice, having less money can feel more painful, but ultimately my safety doesn't come from that. I've had money and I've had no money and I've been safe the whole time, right? So when I go inward and I can feel into what does safety feel like in my body without let's imagine I did have whatever it is I think I need to give me safety. What does that feel like? Maybe I can find it somewhere within me. And again, you get to see you are the supply, it can never run out. So what if I don't just let it live as like, oh, there's this tiny fuzzy feeling in my heart? What if I get really clear on it? Okay, maybe it's red, maybe it's warm, maybe it's glittery, maybe it has this high frequency, maybe it's this beautiful dance like a cloud with different colors. Maybe I make it not just live within my body, but outside and beyond and beyond and beyond. I can spread it across the whole universe. It can touch everything and everyone. It will never run out. And when I insource it, I get to really feel into whatever it is that I want instead of conditioning it to, I can only have that in the future. Now, when we get this feedback loop from life where we imagine, like, I just really want them to like me, I just really want them to love me, that becomes, I want me to like me. I want me to love me. Okay, how can I love this part of myself? Let's insource that feeling. How do I like this part of myself? Insource that, right? And then when you do find that person or that client or that whatever it is, you are coming from a space where your tank is already full. You're not playing this like, I'm a hungry ghost, I'm empty, and I need you to fill me up, right? It's like, hey, I'm already full and I can project my, you name it, love, happiness, whatever, safety onto everything, everyone. It will never run out. And when I really am full, I'm going to feel your vibration back for me much more fully. Because if you are, to some extent, disconnected or depleted from your sense of like liking myself, you can have all the people in the world like and notice you, you're not going to feel it. You're going to tell yourself why that doesn't count, why that's not enough, why it should come from this particular person instead of that one. It's not going to land, it's not going to resonate. But when you already are the frequency, when you're insourced and you're full of the enlightened notice, whatever this energy is, of being loved, of being successful, then you become a match for it on the outside and you feel it.
That is so beautiful. And I just, words can't even do it justice. That was so beautifully said, Katie. And it's just such a good invitation for all of you listening around, and myself included, yeah, around just that power of being that match. And when we notice that we're feeling that lack, we're feeling clingy, graspy, needy of anything, whether it's more opportunities, more business, more money, that person to like you, that relationship, those friends, it directs, the invitation is back to self.
Mm-hmm.
And to give that to self. So if it's giving more love, giving more validation, creating your own opportunities for success, putting yourself out there and inviting that
Mm-hmm.
energy of self-love and devotion in, that it has to manifest on the outside. It'll match to meet that. And I love that so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And
Yeah.
I always love to ask people this on the podcast as we gear up to close. Uh, for you, how does this work tie to when you think about inner union with self, sacred union in relationship, and oneness, divine union, oneness with the cosmos and all that is? How does this topic of insourcing and working with nervous system and our identity tie to that?
Yeah. So I love this quote. I don't know where it came from, so unfortunately I can't credit it, but it's not mine. But this idea that you are the universe experiencing itself from one unique perspective. And in your wholeness, you are everything. And when we experience life, we experience another, we are experiencing ourself, i.e., the universe, from just another dimension, from another perspective. And so this illusion of separation, this illusion of conditions of like, they're different to me, you almost lose the beauty in that. You lose the meaning, you lose the lesson. But when you see everything as an invitation of, oh, I get to experience a part of myself more deeply and more fully through this experience that I'm having with another. And you get to really take off the pedestal anything or anyone that you might be using, most likely subconsciously, to disempower yourself or to, as I was saying earlier, put yourself up on a pedestal above other things or other people, right? So when you do that, you really come into this space of wholeness and oneness and this union of, I don't need to make any of these parts of me that either I experience through myself or through another bad or wrong, Because if I can compassionately witness all of it, I can learn from all of it. I can see another and I can choose to either be triggered by that and I can choose to feel resistance and feel frustration around that, or I can choose to use that as a doorway in to learn something more deeper about myself. And so from this space of oneness, even it's not like this idea of there's this big sky daddy, God, and then there's all of these people who are better than me, and then I fit in somewhere, and then there's all these people who are worse than me. It's just this sense of oneness, of frequency. Which frequency do I dial into that helps me to access the thing I want to access? You can have more compassion for parts of yourself that are less nourished and people who you might experience that reflect those parts back to you. So union for me is about acceptance and about kind of expanding to meet more parts of yourself in that way.
Oh, beautifully said. Thank you. And
Yeah.
Katie, for folks who are listening and they're like, oh my God, this transmission is opening me so much. It's getting me thinking so deeply. I want to be in your world. I want to learn from you. Where can folks find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have a podcast called the High Vibe Honey Podcast. I have a gorgeous episode with Nicola if you want to check that out. The easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Katie Rogers Coaching. And if you hit the link in my bio, you'll be able to find more about my program. So working with me one-on-one, I have a 30-day recalibration space called The Portal. And I have my 6-month container Insources where we go really deep into the work. You're going to meet yourself at a whole new level. And so those are the most expansive ways to work with me. I also have a mastermind launching soon called Temple of Becoming, where you get to really learn how to use all these raw materials that life is delivering you to evolve as a whole woman, but mostly focus into your business. So yeah, if you feel called to do that, then I can't wait to meet you there.
Thank you. Thank you. I will put all of this in the show notes. These programs and containers sound so magical. And thank you so much for joining me today, Katie. It was such a pleasure to connect and riff with you on these amazing, deep existential topics. And thank you, beautiful people, for tuning in to this week's episode of Divine Union. It was such a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.